They told us we were free. But freedom that is wrapped in silence is just a prettier kind of prison. They painted a rainbow across the smoke, and we clapped, blind to the fire beneath it. A peaceful revolution, they said. But peace without justice is just a pause between betrayals. And reconciliation? That was the costume they stitched over a wound that never healed. The truth never made the headlines. It whispered in forgotten townships. It decayed in mass graves and missing files. It screamed in languages the world refused to hear. We are about to tell you the real truth. This is not the South Africa of headlines and monuments. This is the real South Africa. The South Africa they don't want you to see. And if you're ready to go there, to peel back the rainbow and stare into what lies beneath, then subscribe, share, and stay awake. Because what comes next will leave you shocked beyond measure. (1994). The old regime collapsed, not with repentance, but with exhaustion. Apartheid, a system built on violence and dehumanization, finally gave way. Not because it wanted to, but because it had to. And in its ruins, a new vision was born. Democracy, equality, a national rebirth. Nelson Mandela walked free, not with vengeance in his eyes, but forgiveness on his lips. He offered peace. He offered unity. He offered us a chance to become something new. And with that, a phrase echoed across the world: the Rainbow Nation. Coined and carried by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, it became our myth. The story of a country where color no longer mattered, where black and white, oppressor and oppressed, could hold hands and move forward together. But beneath the rainbow, something was left behind. The land, the truth, the debt, the power, the wealth, the pain. Buried, silenced, forgotten. Some stories were told, but they did not dismantle the machine. They simply changed how it looked. A new flag, a new anthem, a new language. Behind the change, the same system pulsed. And so we must ask, was 1994 a victory? Or was it the birth of a new type of domination? South Africa was on the verge of peace. But peace demands more than poetry, more than speeches and handshakes. And so, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the TRC, was born. A daring experiment, a stage where the wounds of apartheid would be exposed, where the victims could speak and the perpetrators could confess. In exchange, amnesty, no trials, no jail cells, no justice or reparations, just truth and, of course, forgiveness. Archbishop Desmond Tutu declared, "Without forgiveness, there is no future." And the country, bleeding, fragile, desperate for hope, believed him. We listened. We watched. We sat glued to radios and television screens as ghosts were called by name. Women recounted how their husbands never came home.
Then they pulled his tongue out. Then they went about cutting his fingers off.
Some broke down in tears. Others sat cold, stone-faced, unmoved. It was a nation trying to cleanse its soul, not behind closed doors, but under the glare of the world's cameras. And when the hearings ended, promises were made. Financial compensation for the broken lives. But the money was a whisper that never came. The guilty returned to their mansions and their quiet wealth, while the victims went back to shacks and squatter camps. They returned to empty plates, to wounds that forgiveness could never heal. Black unemployment is almost 5 times higher than white unemployment. Around 38% of Black South Africans are unemployed, compared to just 8% of whites. Corporate leadership is still dominated by a small minority. Nearly 2/3 of top management positions are held by white professionals, while Black South Africans hold only a fraction. The land remains divided. Less than 4% of private farmland belongs to Black South Africans. Over 70% is still controlled by a small minority that makes up just 7% of the population. The education gap is stark. Only 11% of Black youth attend university, while 60% of white youth have that opportunity. The inequality starts at birth. The infant mortality rate for Black babies was nearly 7 times higher than for white babies during apartheid. Healthcare and nutrition remain deeply unequal. Life expectancy tells the same story. Black South Africans had an average life expectancy of around 55 years, while white South Africans averaged 71. Income still reflects the past. White households earn nearly 3 times more than Black households. Generational wealth builds wealth, while generational poverty traps millions. Suburbs remain mostly white, townships remain mostly Black. Opportunity still depends on your postal code. Travel shows the old design. Millions of Black South Africans spend hours commuting from distant townships to city jobs. Social grants keep many families alive. Most of those receiving grants are Black, a direct result of dispossession and exclusion. Healthcare is split in two. 84%, mostly Black, rely on underfunded public hospitals. The rest, largely white, have access to private healthcare. The wealth gap is massive. Wealth from apartheid-era systems still benefits a small minority, often 20 times more than the majority. The top 10%, mostly white, control almost 70% of national income. And when people say, "move on," it is often from a place of inherited privilege, while the majority still lives in the shadow of an unequal past. The question remains, what now? First, a reminder. This is the South African profile. We do not sugarcoat. We do not nurse people's feelings. We investigate. We remember. So please, subscribe for raw truth, because South Africa's real story is still being written. So, is there still hope? Definitely. But it will not come from slogans. It will come from land returned with fairness and urgency, from education that frees minds, from leaders who act decisively. It will come when we stop blaming the poor for being poor, when old privilege stops hiding, when reconciliation stops meaning forget. It will come when we work together, progressively, honestly, differently.